On this day, 4 years ago, we lost an icon, a legend, and a hero to many, including myself. Chester Bennington took his life on July 20th, 2017, after a lifelong battle with depression, substance abuse, and trauma. This video is dedicated to him and in his honor. So let's just get into it. We're going to talk about the different kinds of suicidality, suicidal ideation, and what are some of the ways in which we can help protect and assure people who are suicidal that their presence is necessary and to keep them here with us. So often when you go to a therapist, if you are dealing with suicidal inclinations, they will ask you if you feel safe, if you have the urge to hurt yourself, or if you have the impulse and the desire to act on those urges. In passive suicidality, you can have lingering, floating thoughts about wanting to die. It's like a passive desire, which may be triggered when, for example, you are on a train or on a ship or at a high space, or if you experience some of your personal triggers which aggravate your depression or trauma. People with suicidal ideation can live without hurting themselves for years. It is simply a desire, it's like a latent in the back of your mind inclination, and although it's extremely hard to live with and people deserve support and need a lot of reassurance and help through this, they're not generally in a state of danger. With active suicidal ideation, however, that's kind of like a state of emergency. That's scary. People will have the intent to act on those impulses, on those urges, and it is of utmost importance to keep them safe. That is the first priority. So if you know a loved one or someone that you want to help who is going through that, make sure you are with them. This can look like physically being present with them, physically being next to them. If that's not a possibility, I know the world is very much apart right now and things are difficult when it comes to physical contact. Try to be on the phone with them. Make sure they don't put the line down. Contact some friends or people in their vicinity that maybe are able to attend them. Many times what I do when assisting a loved one is just staying on the line, making sure they're safe, making sure they're not in harm's way. Another thing you can do is if you can try and isolate them from any kind of tool or weapon, object, anything they can use to hurt themselves with. So if you can isolate them from, for example, pills or alcohol, things they can overdose on, if you can isolate them from razors, sharp objects, ropes, anything like that, anything that may result in a higher possibility of them using as a method. The other thing, and this is something that is hard to do in many places or hard to do in circumstances, and I know that the mental health system is obviously, it's flawed, it's not perfect, it's not linear either, it's not consistent. But if you feel like they are directly going to hurt themselves, then maybe contact a mental health helpline or a facility in their area that can keep them safe. Other ways that you can help people going through suicidal thoughts is simply reassure them. I think reassurance is, in general, such a great tool to equip people with mental illness with, because your mind is screaming at you at those points. You're in a really dark place. You're, as Chester would say, are in a bad neighborhood. You think that you are a burden to the people around you. You may think that you are not wanted, you're not needed, you're not important. So tell people, A, how they impact your life specifically and directly. For example, if it's a partner, tell them how their life improves your life in that specific role. If it's a child of yours, if it's a friend, if it's a sibling, if it's a cousin, if it's an acquaintance, coworker, Acquaint them with that role and show them the importance they bring to the table within those specific roles. Remind them why they're important. Maybe tell them how, when you were in a hard spot, they helped you through that. Tell them that they're kind. Tell them that they're talented. Bring up what they're good at. Bring up what they enjoy doing when they're able to. Make them feel and know that they're not a burden and they are necessary to be here. Secondly, tell them how the world needs them in general. Once you talk about the personalized way in which they impact your lives positively, also talk about maybe gently about the future or things that may help them feel like a spark. Like if it's, for example, I really enjoy concerts. So, pre-pandemic times, something that would cheer me up was even just, thinking about going to a show. And I know that may sound trivial, but it actually has helped. And sometimes play them a song that they're familiar with. Play them a clip or a movie, or show them an image that is familiar to them, that is grounding, that is emotionally comforting, so that they sort of come back from the mental anguish that they're stuck in, that's in their mind. It's like being in a war zone. You're completely isolated from any thoughts of anything else. You are currently waging a war against yourself. It's you against you. So what you need to do as an outsider is jump in and remove them from that place. Other grounding techniques can even just be reminding them of their surroundings. Something I like to do sometimes is counting 5 objects that are red in the room, counting 5 objects that are blue, counting all the objects that start with the letter T. Things like that. It will actually push people to look around them and kind of get out of their mind a little bit and acquaint themselves with their physical environment. Something else I like to do is soothing grounding or emotional grounding. This can look anything like naming movies, like you could do an alphabetical list of movies. You could do an alphabetical list of bands, musicians, anything like that. Another thing is like more tactile. If you're physically with them, maybe bring them a drink that they like, maybe expose them to a scent, like an essential oil, something that will kind of reinvigorate their senses and bring them back to earth, so to speak. The other thing I would like to say is to be stubborn, but be gentle. Don't show signs of frustration. Don't show signs of like anger or resentment, because that might actually re-trigger their thoughts of low self-esteem and self-hatred. But be firm, Depression is very sticky. When you're actively suicidal, all you want to do and believe is your mind, because nothing else is true to you. So remind them constantly why they need to be here, Be adamant. Don't put that phone down. Don't walk out of that room. Don't walk out of that house. Just be around them. Kind of think of them as a vulnerable pet or a little child. They're stubborn. They're fighting off your thoughts. Do not be offended when they say things like, I'm not important, I'm nothing, I don't matter, you're better off without me, you'll feel better if I'm gone. These are things that people might say because these are things that they believe in the moment. Don't take it to heart. That is their depression talking. Remind them of that. Remind them that that is your depression. That is not an accurate, objective view of things. Your perception is currently distorted by what you're experiencing. So, be firm. Do not give up, but at the same time, show them gentleness. Show them kindness. I know some people do use guilt as a technique. I know, like, guilt-tripping people and, like, using a negative emotion to combat more negative emotions may not necessarily seem like the wisest choice, but sometimes it kind of helps. Many times when I've been suicidal, I have gotten through those periods because I didn't want to inflict a pain or a sense of, loneliness or loss. I didn't want the people close to me to feel like they didn't do enough to prevent me from leaving. So maybe tell them that, tell them that you would be devastated. Tell them how it would play out for you, because suicide is something that really transfers the pain to other people. It does not end with you. It does not die with you. It is something that lingers, and it's something we all have to work together as a community to combat. Those were just some quick pieces of advice I'd like to give. In short, I'd also like to say that depression is not a choice. Suicidal ideation is something people go through when they're at their wits' end. Emotionally, they feel like they're at the end of the tunnel with no light in sight. They feel like the best way to solve everything is to leave. That may not be objective, but that's how they feel, and it's not their fault. It's not in their control, but it is 100% preventable. Lastly, I will be giving helpline information in the description, and I will also be linking the widow of Chester Bennington, to Linda Bennington. She made an organization called ChangesDirection 360, which was made in his honor and is doing wonderful work to help mental health advocacy and to prevent more people from feeling alone and isolated. So I will be dropping those links in the description. Be sure to check them out. And lastly, once again, Chester, you are so very loved, and you are so cherished. I'm sorry you didn't feel like that all the time, but we will always carry on your legacy, and we will fight against the evils of depression and mental illness, and hopefully make this world a more compassionate place for people like you and I. Thank you so much for watching. Please share if this video was helpful in any way. Maybe show some support to some Chester Bennington fans today. It's been hard for years. Every time this anniversary comes around, a lot of us get really low. It can be triggering. So please stay safe, take care of yourselves, and be gentle with yourselves and each other. Thank you for watching.